BHC, right, Jaynie,
That's right.
as the acronym for that group. And Jane Hayse, who's the president of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Beach Properties of Florida. Welcome, Jan. I'm excited to have you. And then Katie Stephans, who's the vice president of Enterprise Applications at Home Services of America. And each of these leaders brings a unique perspective because all they do, it's very different, the roles that they have, from operational excellence to transformative brokerage leadership and cutting edge enterprise technology. Their impressive bios are going to be added to the link on this webpage, so you'll find those there. So we're going to get started. Grab your cafecito and let's begin the conversation. So, the first question I always ask is about leadership because I'm always interested in learning from each of you how you were able to get into this business. Was it by choice, by chance? And what does your role entail? Because, Jan, I know yours a little bit, but the other two are very unique in what you do. So, I'll start off with you, Katie. Tell me a little bit about your role and how you got started.
Sure. So I'm definitely a story of getting into real estate by chance. I came into the industry at probably one of the best times, February of 2008, for those of you who
Wow. So,
Hmm,
hey, we're celebrating.
right, it's a great time. Yeah. And I honestly, I it was one of those, I knew someone who was in the mortgage company at Reese Nichols in Kansas City, where I started, and got into the role as an IT trainer. So helping our agents learn how to use technology back in a time where we were still struggling with the fact that we didn't carry books around with the MLS in them anymore. So that's how I got started and then kind of worked my way through and been with the whole organization for my entire real estate career. And then what I'm really focused on today in my role is we are an organization who, this is not going to be news to anyone who's familiar with home services, but we have 40, give or take, how you count the companies, odd companies that we have throughout the organization. They've all been kind of grown up in different ways and kind of working in their own ways, places in terms of technology. And now we're kind of at this pivotal moment where we need to start aligning around common platforms so that we can continue to grow and start to innovate more and do so in a way that impacts everyone, in a equal and strong way. And so what I'm coming in and bringing to the table is our opportunity to start doing that, defining the things that are, going to continue to elevate our companies and their business and continue to give them that platform for growth, but do so in a way that we can all work together more strongly.
Oh, first of all, very impressive because there's not that many people that are in STEM that are women, right? So you're part of that STEM field. And also the fact that you came into the business probably in the most difficult times of 2008. Because for those that are not familiar with our industry, 2008 was the downfall of the way we did things in real estate. And we were going through a lot of changes, which is no different than what we're doing today, right? We're going through a lot of different changes. So
Mhm.
you've seen it all, you've been there. And then the fact that you're uniforming or trying to find a cohesive pattern for all of our companies to kind of work together, I think is incredible because we are kind of siloed. And sometimes, making sure that we kind of match up together is going to be really key to our success. So thank you, Katie, for doing that. And you're doing that as well, Janie. You're coordinating, things as well. So tell us a little bit about your background. And I know it's in HR just because I've had you in accountability partner. So getting into this field, how was it and what does your role entail?
Yeah, so starting off first, happened chance to go into real estate. The work that I do has been pretty industry agnostic. And I've been at several different companies. So when you think about my role, and I get asked about my role a lot, nobody really understands what is it? What is a multifunctional shared services group? A multifunctional shared services group means we have multiple functions, just as it sounds. So think about your support functions like legal and finance and HR and IT. And what we work to do is streamline and make efficient back office processes, the processes that we don't want people to have to care about. So partnering a lot with Katie when we think about enterprise and process and doing things. So my route to this job is windy. So I started out in finance, spent years in finance. I spent probably 20 years in HR, but not traditional HR. It's always been operational, process improvement. I've spent some time studying lean methodology, so lean process improvement. So every role that I've had is really, how do we do things better, faster, and really with customer service in mind. So how do we do it best for the organization we serve? So I'm leading a fantastic group of folks in that multifunctional space.
And I know a lot of transition and newness is happening in your role. So it can also be extremely scary for a lot of us who are, not used to the changes that are coming or the newness of that, just like any technology. So I know that we're going to talk a little bit more about that, Jaynie, and some of the things that have happened to get you to where you are today. And Jan, you've just stepped into this role too this past year. And I know it was, but you've got a lot of experience working with beach properties of Florida. You've worked with them for a long time in different roles, and you actually were a realtor too, right? So
Well, yes, I started with beach properties in 2011. I came from a background in banking and title and needed a job that was kind of flexible with my kids' schedule because they were young at the time. So I was a transaction coordinator for the three owners of beach properties of Florida. So it's been really fun to grow with this company as we had 50 agents at the time and three offices. And, now we have over 250 agents and we're now, home services company, which is amazing. And as Katie and Jaynie talk, we love you guys because when we were purchased, we were one of the smaller companies. So we started right away with the shared services before it was shared services. So, we went from doing everything ourselves and learned to kind of give that up early. And, and I really have grown to appreciate the partnerships that we have with shared services team so that our team here can focus on our agents and, helping them adapt to the changes in the market and grow their business.
well,
That's
Gina
right.
always, yeah, go ahead, Jaynie.
I was just going to say, and that's the point, Jan. I just love that so much. So thank you.
And I love that you automatically were inducted into the shared that model, because for those that haven't, that's the hardest thing. It's just transitioning to something new. And when you start something, I always say for agents that are starting right now, you guys you're learning the way to do things, so you don't have to worry about, stressing out about the way you used to do things, because that's what a lot of us get stuck on. And Jan, I know for you, for a fact, because I love my favorite vacation spot in the world is Sea Grove, Seaside, and Santa Rosa Beach. So I know those beaches like the back of my hand. And I remember when you were an independent and then moving into that from a franchise into being part of the home services family of companies. So exciting news. And again, you're not new to the role. So my next question is, what have been some of the things that have been kind of unique in your transition into this new role, and what inspired you to take on this new challenge, right? Because sometimes it's like, okay, you're touched, it's your turn to be, a leader, and sometimes it's like, oh my God, I've been wanting this all my life and now I'm finally there. And what has been the toughest thing and what has been the easiest thing? So I'll go back to you, Jan.
Okay, yeah. So for me, this was not something that I wanted my entire life. I was definitely touched with it. And I'm always up for a challenge, right? If an opportunity presents itself to me, I'm gonna, it seemed like a big one, but I want to give it a try. And I've just learned from a lot of people and been taking notes as I go. And I thought, what a fantastic opportunity for me. How blessed am I to be working with all these amazing peoples and to help our company grow. So I
You've
took it as
already
a
been doing
challenge.
that because you were in that. What was your role prior? Like
Operations.
the money side and the
Yeah.
operational side,
Yeah.
which is
So all back facing stuff, really I could just sit in my office and hide and do those things. So it's been it's been a little bit of getting out of my comfort zone, which is good for all of us to have to do sometimes.
well,
It definitely helps us grow.
It really, that's what I'm saying. That's really what's great about it too, because you know the companies from the from the ground up, and now it's more interfacing with the real, with the agents that are part of your company and with the customers that you serve. Katie, how about you?
For me, I wouldn't say this is necessarily what I always dreamt I would do either. I mean, very much like Jan, I've not ever shied away from a challenge or an opportunity. And this was just another one that presented itself to me, though kind of working in the space of helping to create technology solutions and implement technology solutions that really enable our businesses is something that I've been doing most of my career here in one form or fashion. So really, this has just been an opportunity to do it from a different vantage point, to do it from, like you said, Teresa, a different leadership position. So it's been a good transition. I think, though, that it has had its challenges for sure. And I think a lot of it just stems from the fact that the last 18 months, we've been through a lot of change as an organization, both via external forces and internal forces. And you see that in just the way that, our people have been impacted and the way things, we're still learning how to be a unified organization in the way that Jaynie's kind of working us in that direction. So there's been a lot of, and continues to be a lot of, growth on the, learning to be a bigger team, learning to work from a unified enterprise model perspective, getting used to governance that we've never had before, all those things that it's just been certainly presented itself some challenges, especially since we don't get to just hit pause, figure all of that out and start back up. We're going to what is it, build the plane while we're flying it, which is, who doesn't love that? That's the So certainly doesn't go without its challenges, but it's worth it. It's rewarding, and I'm certainly glad to be here and continuing to kind of work with the team in that manner.
Well, you've gone through so many times of change, which is really
Mm.
perfect because you're able to adapt. I think that's the biggest thing for me when I'm dealing with change. You've done this before. Just suck it up and go for it. That's what I always say. Just learn a new thing. It's a new skill.
Mhm.
When you're uncomfortable, that's really when you start to learn, right? That makes you really learn and take on new challenges. And for sure, Jaynie, you've dealt with new challenges, especially in the last 18 months, just like Katie mentioned, in the fact that not only did we go through the fact that you were establishing this new center, bringing in new talent, new people, also you had roles that were already in place that you had to now bring under this umbrella. And that also caused a lot of distress within the companies who had a different way of doing things. So, wow, tell me about how that's been and how have you been able to handle it so beautifully? And there are challenges, we know that, but what lessons have you learned about leadership during these times of not just disruption within our company, but also the industry going through a lot of change?
Yeah, and I'm just going to back up one step for anybody that's listening. Changing an operating model, not easy. And Home Services of America was really set up as a holding company with independent companies running autonomously. So when we talk about the numbers of companies, we have 50, 60, 70, depending on who's counting, independent companies. Each of these companies with their own finance, HR, legal, IT departments in it. Going to a unified model and supporting the company in a different way in these support functions is hard. It is an incredible amount of change. And I came in 18 months ago. The project was going to be 18 months or so. And we had change. External impacts happening to our organization that we were asked, how quickly can you do this? And we changed an 18-month massive project into 6 months. So change accelerated. When you do that, it's not going to be pretty. So we didn't launch our services in a beautiful way and everybody was happy. So it was messy. Feedback was messy. Compound that with all of these external influences making people maybe a little bit more crabby than on a normal day. So we took a lot of feedback. I am so fortunate to have a great group of leaders underneath me. And we've taken that feedback and improved and tried to make improvements and take that. I had a colleague that said, Jaynie, anytime you give me feedback, I consider it a gift. And that resonates with me, that we should think of feedback as a gift, even if it's hard to hear, even if it's negative, all of those things, we need to try and make things better. So that's been incredible. I would also say from top leadership on down, change is hard. So even though top leadership says, this is what we want to do, they haven't been through it before. They don't know the trips and turns and all the things that we will go through. So sometimes recalibrating with top leadership and aligning with leadership and helping everybody through the change. But we have incredible leaders here, and incredible leaders that are really just trying to help make it a better place. So with that lens, we're going to do it and we'll be successful.
Well, it has been a tough road, and if anyone has had the patience to deal with the negative comments, the positive comments, everything that goes with change, because again, you had to do something so fast and drastic that it really made it not just uncomfortable for those that work with you, but also the people that are your clients. So a different way of doing things, but I think in the end it's going to be phenomenal for everyone to have everyone kind of on the same page. And really, Katie, all your work, I think in the end is going to be phenomenal for the organization. It's going to save lots of money and a lot of headaches. So kudos to both of you for what you're doing. The other question I love to hear is sometimes as women, especially in your roles, technology, you face adversity, you face challenges. So share those for those others out there that are watching. That to me, when somebody shares that, it's an aha moment for me that, oh my God, that's exactly what happened to me. And I didn't know how to handle it. I love hearing the stories so I know how to proceed if that does or should happen to me as well. So Jenny, I'll start with you.
So, Teresa, are you asking on a personal side,
Yes.
challenges?
It can
Oh,
be personal, it can be something work related. How
yeah,
did you
yeah,
overcome a challenge and adversity that impacted you?
yeah. So I just thinking about this, what's coming to mind for me is on a personal side. I had a mom who passed away from dementia, and learning about something that is intangible, not understood, and trying to become a primary caregiver for somebody, and really kind of leaning into learning about what this is and what will change. There is no recipe for dementia. Each individual is different. How people handle it is different. And you have to change and alter how you think about things almost on a daily basis.
Wow.
So translate that into work and translate that into going through just this major transformation that we're going to. There are every day that somebody will come into my office and say something that is not expected, we didn't plan on. So how do you shift and turn and think about and rechart the course as you're building? We're, like Katie said, we're building a plane as we go, right? So we have to figure out how it fits best, and things will come your way that you don't expect. So I think kind of reflecting on personal situations and how you handle them can also help you in how you lead and get through things in your professional situation.
Well, first of all, my heart goes out to you.
Thank
How long what did she suffer from dementia?
At least 5 years that we knew about it.
And then she passed away.
Yes. She passed away 2 years ago.
Yeah. So first of all, again, thank
Okay.
you for sharing that personal story of, because I know that it took so much courage for you to do that, but also that's what we're dealing with many of the realtors and agents and customers that we work with, where it's life, life happens, and how we handle them is how really a testament of our courage and our personality and the ability to adapt. So thanks again for sharing that.
Sure.
Katie, how about you?
From my perspective, I think I also kind of come back to like a personal, reflection of you never quite know what's going to come your way. kind of to Jaynie's point, you always have to, even the things that you think are going to be easy. So for me, the biggest personal adversity that came to mind with this was my path to motherhood was not what I planned ever. It was, my husband and I get to be one of the 1 in 7 that deals with infertility in this country, and a 10-year struggle through that valley, with IVF as part of it and everything else. That's one thing that you always think is going to be a gimme. It's always going to be a gimme. And when it's not, you just kind of have to sit back and you go, okay, life is not going to be what I expect it to be, but that's going to be okay. At the end of the day, it's going to be okay. And that's what you find on the other end. And you find a better gift on the other end than you ever expected. And I was so fortunate that for us, it worked out. And we have our son, who is just the light of our life. But again, it's not what we expected. It's not what we thought it was going to be. So when you translate that into business, we can all sit here and think of how we think that this is all going to go, and the best laid intentions. And you never know what's going to come at you, no matter how much planning you have, but it's the strength and the grit and the ability to not give up and to just keep putting one foot in front of the other, no matter what. That really is, I think, something that kind of separates those who continue to excel and exceed from those who don't. And so that's something that for me has always been a part of who I am, and it truly tested it in that moment and put it into stark reality for me in a different way in that part of my life. So,
Well, what a gift that you just shared, that your son, obviously, I know that he's very special. And also there are so many people that do struggle with trying to become parents. And sometimes we don't realize that that struggle is also part of, you still have to go on
mhm.
every day with work, and you still have to deal with all this. So again, it prepares you for realizing not everything's going to go as we planned, as you stated. So thank you for definitely sharing that with us, and also with our audience members who I know are going to resonate, because that may be a part of their lives right now. So again, good news that you were able to have this beautiful child. Is 3 years old, you were telling us earlier.
Great.
Those terrible threes. Jan, I know that you've undergone, and our industry has undergone with a lot of different changes. And it constantly it never surprised me there's something else going on. Now we're dealing with AI. We were dealing with the NAR settlement. We're dealing with buyer agency, cooperative brokerage, all these different things. How do you handle it, and how are you able to secure agents and make sure that they're feeling okay? Because it's really important. And how do you prepare for, your team, for what's next?
Yeah, it's been a challenge for sure. But, if we surround ourselves with people, who I like to say, you surround ourselves with people who are smarter than you are, right? We have a wonderful broker team who are very involved with the local and national ECAR, MLS, Florida Realtors, that sort of thing. And they've done a phenomenal job of learning and then taking the information back and training our agents. So that's, because like we've all said, we don't, all you can expect is the unexpected, right? And it was an overwhelming time for our agents, just with the so many new changes. So we were able to get in front of them and just kind of walk through the process. It was tough. There was a lot of uneasiness because nobody likes change. But now it's with our team, we've been able to navigate through that.
Well, you know what? It's homeownership, and homeownership's the most special thing that you can accomplish in this country. And so I think the values that we hold so dear to our heart really resonate with what we do anytime a change happens, because in the end, that's really what we're all about. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. Yeah,
So
right?
how can we help you? That's,
Yes.
our get in front of our agents and how can we help you?
And even with AI, which I know is part of what we talk about every single day, the fact that your home is where you raise a family and where you have experience that are life altering and life changing. With that, I think that personal, that touch is really what makes our agents so valuable to so many. So again, that will never change, because until AI is able to do that, I don't think it's going to be able to really replace the work that we do. All right, here, and that's my little spiel about that because I know we've going through a lot of change, which is fantastic in the industry because it really is helpful in really curtailing some of those, like you were saying, Jaynie, those jobs that really, take a lot of time and what Gino calls whirlwinds versus opportunities to really focus on what we do best. I love learning about mentorship because I think it's really important to have mentors and to also be a mentee, to also mentor others. So, is there someone you want to give credit to right now that has either influenced your leadership journey or has guided you in a way that has helped you today lead the way you do? And I'll start with you, Jan.
Yeah, well, I've had several good mentors. I've been very blessed in every job I've had to work for incredible people who just loved their staff and poured into all of us. But one of our original owners, Price Rayner, he would have sit me in his office and just try to teach me, explain to me everything that was going through his head. He's like, "Here, I'm trying to help you. This is," and pour into me. But one of the most important things that I got from that was, and it goes back to what we've been talking about. The only thing we can control is our attitude and our actions. So it doesn't matter what scenario is happening, however, in our life, just remember how we respond is going to affect the outcome of things. And then also, it's just how you treat people and going in front. Like, he was always wanting to be like, "How are you?" No, really. "How are you?" And you're like, "Oh my gosh, somebody cares." Now, sometimes you break down crying when somebody asks that because you're just trying to hold it together. You're like, "I'm great." But yeah, so he taught me a lot about just the people aspect. Anybody can do a job, but to be there for our people is very important to me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for recognizing him. And I could not agree with you more. It's the people that really are the make the biggest difference. Katie.
Yeah, I'll build on what Jan said. Like her, I've had several different, wonderful leaders that I've been able to work with over the years. But I think the most recent one for me was one that many in the audience may actually know, Mary Lee Blaylock, who have been with us in this organization for 30 years. And I had the very great privilege of working very closely with her for the last couple of years. And, one of the things, there were so many things. So when I thought about this, I had to pick out the one thing that I really felt like was the most pivotal for me with her. And that was learning that success is not measured by the title, the prestige, the money, any of these things that we all think about. Oh, we've got that, they're on top of the world, they must have it all. That's not, there's a lot of ways to get to the top. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all true success. And what really, though, defines success is it's the relationships that you build and the respect that you garner. And that is what matters. And that is the foundation of what you're going to be able to do as a leader, the changes that you're going to be able to help impact, and really just the way that we're all able to work together, because this is not just one of us off holding the flag and saying, "Here we go." We are all together, and we have to be able to trust each other, to appreciate each other, and to lean into each other. And you can't do that without those relationships in that respect.
Oh, we all miss you, Mary Lee. She is a mentor and for so many of us in our industry. She started out in relocation. I don't know if you know Katie
Yeah.
that, and that's when I got to meet her. Not when she was president, she was in the relocation side. So always a mentor from that perspective, and always such a great leader. So definitely, Katie, you had the very best
It
for
was very
sure.
much, yeah.
Jaynie.
I will also give a kudos out to Mary Lee because she was here when I started and really, really helped pave the way for me entering this organization. But like Katie and Jan, it is about the people. And when I thought about a mentor, I went all the way back to my father. My father was a vice president of finance at a large energy company, not the one you guys might think about. But I remember him talking about people and that every job is equally as important. And that has always stuck with me. We all have jobs to do, and they are all important to making whatever it is we're working on happen. And when there was a lot of work and he had project work, rate cases, things of that nature, he was in the office with his folks. Whether he specifically had tasks to do or not, he said, they're there, so I'm there. And I've always just remembered and want people to consider me part of the team. I would like to be part of the team before I'm your leader. So,
Oh,
yeah.
love that tribute to your father. And what a beautiful person he, well, obviously you're his, child. So, again, father's very special. Thank you for sharing.
Oh.
So we're going through change. Katie, Jaynie, for sure. You guys are working in a lot of areas. So, what do you hope will leave a lasting impact in the work that you're doing? Because we all want to leave a legacy in what, whether it's whatever we're doing, right? But I know that your initiatives really are going to change in a positive way. So, tell me a little bit more about that. I'll start with you, Katie.
Yeah, so I think for us, it's, our big initiatives are, it starts with some of the work we're doing right now in terms of, it's got a very fancy technology sounding title, Enterprise Application Rationalization. Doesn't that sound incredibly
Yes.
fantastic? And truly all it is we have 40 different ways of doing things from a technology perspective, and they're in place for a reason. And so for us, in order for us to start thinking about how we unify and how we do things from a single source of truth, we need to understand why these different systems are in place, what different systems are in place, because there's going to be amazing things that we learn from each one of our companies in terms of what they're doing and why they're doing it. And so my team has really been embarking on this. We're having conversations with every single one of our companies, belly to belly. What are you doing? What do you have? Why do you have it? So that we can learn the great things, have it all collected, and then be able to work as a group, as the wonderful, stronger together group that we are of home services, to figure out what is this path forward. This is not Katie sitting here saying this is what we're going to do. That would be terrifying for all of us, but this is all of us coming together and figuring it out. And it's from the ground up. So for us, it's that unification, and it's doing it in that way that we all hope that, we are perceived at home services as we are part of the family, we are part of the team, and we are doing this together because we truly do care about every single one of our agents, every single one of our companies, and what we are able to do to empower each and every one of them.
Oh, I love it. So creating that unified approach so that not but I love that you're also talking to each company to independently to find out why they do what they do. And sometimes you learn, well, that's very unique to our market, or it's very unique to what our culture. And so we just want to make sure that that stays intact.
Mhm.
And you've got a hard job. Okay, that's a tough role, especially with so many different companies that you have to kind of implement one cohesive plan.
Well, if you ever
Um,
get bored, Teresa, I can find things for you to do. So you feel free to.
okay, absolutely. I don't know if I would be any help or more of a detriment whatsoever. JD, how about you?
Yeah, so thinking about a lasting impact, I know a lot of times I tell people, I don't want you to have to think about us. The impact that we want to have in shared services is that we do things truly behind the scenes. Things like accounts payable, you don't want to have to worry about invoices getting paid. Your payroll, you just want to know it's in the bank. You don't want to have to worry about those things. So that is probably a big piece. The other side would be, I would love it when people say, I love to reach out to the Shared Success Center because they help me. They're amazing. They're amazing people. Oh, I got Jaynie on the phone. Oh, I got Susie on the phone. And everyone gives me a great experience. I get what I need, and I can get back to the work of helping us grow our real estate business.
Oh,
So, yeah.
well, there's nothing more important than that, to have someone you can call, but not have to worry about, like, How do you fly? What mechanics are part of the plane? I don't care. I just want to know that it's going to get me off the ground and to my destination, right? So I love that. That's perfect. All right. One of the things that I always want to know about is what advice would you give to someone else who may want to step up but doubt themselves about going into leadership? And whoever wants to answer that. Um, Anybody.
I'll start. I think you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to have self-confidence and know that you are worth it. So first and foremost, thinking about that. And then thinking about, so what are you going to do with that and that confidence? We've talked about building relationships. I think having good relationships inside your business and in your network, people help people. So let folks know where you want to go. What do you want to strive to be? And they will help you. Ask them for feedback. Every one of us has blind spots on where we are not like we think we are, and they will help you to listen to the feedback, take the feedback, and try to grow. So I think those would be my top three.
I think that's great advice because sometimes the feedback may not be positive and we have to take it and just say, okay, maybe I do that now. And how do I change it? So, Katie, how about you?
Jaynie's was fantastic. I think the other one for me is you're not always going to have all the answers, and be okay with that. In fact, most of the time you're going to have fewer answers than you think you should, but you surround yourself with the great people, smart people, and you listen to them. That's key. You can't just have them there and then not listen. And don't be afraid to listen to them and then put one foot in front of the other. You may not even know where you're going yet, but making progress is better than just standing still. So that is, I think, something that you just have to, it's uncomfortable, especially for type A perfectionist, crazy people like me. But learning that lesson is just so vital to the success of both yourself and the organization that you're a part of.
Beautiful, beautiful advice. All right,
Yeah.
Jan, you want?
I would just add to that, be authentic, have confidence, and be resilient. Things are going to happen that'll knock you down, but get back up and try again. That's part of it. And just surround yourself with people who uplift you, but you've got to believe in yourself. That's the hardest part for a lot of us, is knowing that we can do it, but you can, I'll just say you can do it, and light your own path, set your own way.
I think that's beautiful. And also, I remember when I stepped into first NARP president role, how I wanted to be like the predecessor who was so dynamic and so phenomenal. And for me, my style was very different. And so how did I fill the shoes of someone who was phenomenal prior to me, right? That's always hard to me. That was the hardest part when I was NARP president. And I love that you said be authentic. I was just, you know what? I just have to be me. And that's the way you lead, right? So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. All right. The toughest thing for us is to really balance what we're doing work related, especially for those of us that work remote. I think it's such a challenge because for me, I never am off the clock. I never get off the clock. I'm always responding to emails. Because I'm remote, I almost feel guilty because, oh my God, I should be working more and more hours because I'm not driving somewhere. So, how do you balance your professional growth with your personal, well-being? Because women struggle with that. I have this conversation all the time. Jan, I'll start with you.
You have to make it a priority, and I'm fortunate because I do get to come into an office every day. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, they like being at home, but you have to separate. You have to say, time with your family and friends and time for you is sacred. I have a morning routine. I get up early, I exercise, I meet friends at the gym, that's that. And then you have time, I like quiet time to reflect and meditate and, just have that morning for me to set my mindset. Start with a grateful mindset. to carry on through the day. But if you let it, if I used to be real bad. People would text at 9 o'clock at night, and that's our nature, is to respond. But you finally have to say no. My family is important to me, and so set those boundaries. But it's tough.
It is so tough. It's so tough. Katie, have you had challenges there?
Yeah, I mean, much like Jan, I used to be in the same boat where I was on all the time. I would respond nights and weekends anytime I had to. Being in IT, sometimes you don't get that luxury to not. But, as the last 5 years, like many of us, I work remote now and I work remote totally. And that actually has kind of forced me into those boundaries. And I always have to remind myself, no one's going to set your boundaries and enforce your boundaries but you. And so prioritizing your personal life, I have a space here at home. This is my office. This is where work happens. I walk out that door, I shut it off. It doesn't mean I won't never respond or never pay attention or anything like that, but my family is incredibly important to me. I am a whole person, and that is not just what I do at work. That is who I am at home. And I have to continue to make sure that, to Jan's point, that is the priority when I'm after hours, when I'm on vacation, anything like that. I give it my all while I'm here, but I've got to give it my all when I'm to my family when I'm not, you know. And I also have to remember growth is not linear, and growth is not just your professional life. You're going to have years where your growth looks like a rocket ship from a professional perspective. You're going to have years where you're looking like you're rolling down the hill with your hair all messed up. And that's okay, because in the end, you end up where you want. And you all have to always have to look at the season of life that you're in. Some years you may be in a beautiful season of life where your personal growth is taking the front seat. And that's great, because remember, folks, we work to live. We shouldn't live to work. And so just take it all in. It's not just one portion of who you are, it is who you are as an entire human being. And that's just something we have to remember, especially in such a world where it's always on 24/7, connected to everyone via the internet or whatever. Just remember, take time for you, set your priorities, and you are more than just what you do.
It's so true. And I love the fact that you close your office and you are pretty much done. I think that's really important if you have the luxury, because not all of us have the luxury of having our own space to have an office. But to have that is such a huge, to me, asset, because you're able to really kind of, okay, separate, this is my office. I'm walking out. Now I'm spending time with my family. And I can be very honest and sincere. They're not always going to be around.
Yeah.
I lost my husband 2 years ago, and I always thought he'd be around, and he's not. So you really have to, and my kids are grown and they're out of the house. So spend that valuable time with that family, because they're not always going to be there as much as you think and hope. Jaynie, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's very similar theme. The word I would use is be mindful. Be mindful of what's going on in your life. There are times when, well, you've heard the big transformation that we've gone through, very stressful, lot of work. But be mindful of how you show up in times of stress is probably not your best self. So it is super important to unplug. And I do. I turn off my computer. I literally turn off my computer. I sleep as 7 to 8 hours a night. That's super important. And I enjoy what activities make my cup get full. And that could be golf, pickleball, bowling. It could be sitting around a bonfire, having beers with friends. It could be a variety of things, but I am not at work when I'm in those moments. And I think that's so, so important that you unplug and yet you be mindful of what's happening to you personally at work in times of stress, because as a leader, that rolls down to your team. So it's just very important.
It does. It affects everything, right? It affects the people that you work with when you are having or not taking that time for yourself. All right. And a question that I'm looking at the crystal ball. All right. And whoever wants to answer this, because I know it's a difficult question, is how do you see, where do we see ourselves headed in the next 5 years? And how do we plan, to shape that future? Anyone?
I don't want to jump on Katie's parade. So Katie, if I steal an answer from you, I apologize, but we probably have lots of similarities. When you think of shared services and where things were, I'm going to date myself. We started out in the world of paper, and you physically had to be in an office doing administrative work. Fast forward to today, where we are able to do so much through technology virtually, and we can grab talent from across the United States and really leverage the best of talent. Fast forwarding, how do you do it better? I think we will be embracing, Teresa, a little bit differently, AI and ChatGPT and EDI and all of those things, so that again, we are more efficient in the stuff that folks don't want to have to pay attention to. So for shared services, it's really how to advance along with technology advances that will help enable.
Perfect answer.
Sorry, Katie.
No, great. It was great.
Anyone
I
else?
would, I would say that that leans into the real estate side too. You know, as our agents, you want to lean into AI and all the advances of technology. You want to learn that and just remember it is about relationships, no matter how far we advance in technology, learn that and embrace it. But you're dealing with people who are buying and selling their homes or, you know, things that are very important to them. So just maintaining the company culture and adapting to the market shifts and just, you know, going with the flow as things happen and, you know, change with the change, just staying with that.
Perfect. Well, and I see like cars that are going to be flying. Okay. Like even from that perspective, just how the home itself will change in the next 5 years. Because if you look at the last 5 years, I mean, look at cell phones and look at, I mean, things that the watches, everything that is, you know, like if you remember the show, if you're old enough, the Jetsons, it's
I was
like,
thinking that.
wow, right? We're getting there, the Jetsons. Anyway, as we wrap up, believe it or not, we're almost done. And I can't believe that time has just flown by. I always like to end with a positive, fun, you know, recommendation of great reads. I'm not a big reader, but I like the recommendations that we get from you personally of things that you know, because I can do Blinkist or podcasts that you're listening to that you think is fun, that you know, you're getting a lot of, and then also what I resonates with me are quotes. So any one of those three or all three, if you want to. I'll start with you, Dan.
All right. One of my favorite podcasts to listen to is Feel Better, Live More. It's by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, and it's just great tidbits on life, right? And just how to deal with all the things in life. But a book that I listen to that's not really work related, but I found it fascinating is Outwitting the Devil with Napoleon Hill. If you ever get a chance to listen to that, it's really, really incredible. It's written back in the 30s or 40s or something, but what he said hits true with what's going on today. But you know, the book that I'm pouring into right now is The Blueprint. So I have just jumped into my leadership role, so I'm really trying to, you know, every day I'm trying to learn more and more. So The Blueprint is what I'm really focused in right now.
I have not read that, The Blueprint, or The
Okay,
Devil.
Outwitting the Devil. I mean, I was listening to an audiobook with my husband in the car, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is
I thought
crazy.
I knew all the Napoleon Hill books. I didn't know that one.
It was
That's
just released.
okay.
So yeah,
Perfect.
check it out. And then, you know, a quote that always resonates me, and it's not that great, but it's wherever you go, there you are. And it's just a reminder, like, you, be happy where you are right now, because no matter where you are, that's it. You have you.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think it's very insightful. You know, be present too. Like, be present, you know. I love that. Jaynie?
Yeah, I have so I have a long commute. So I have been getting into Audible books, mostly for pleasure. But I am listening to one that is resonating for me that I think every woman, and probably everyone could get something out. And maybe I'm late to the party, but it is the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. So good. And the author narrates, which you don't always get in an Audible book, and she's incredibly animated. She's a great speaker. So I'm getting a lot out of that. I'm just in the process. I think I have like 6 hours left of it. Another book that I really enjoyed, that it's called The Women. And I didn't write down the author, but it is about women heroes in the Vietnam War.
Oh, cool.
Not very talked about, and it is a really good read. Yeah. And then I don't really I haven't embraced the podcast world yet. I'm on my Audible books. But the quote that resonates with me, and I don't know if you guys can see behind me, I have books with quotes from famous women. But the quote that's always resonated for me is, "She believed she could, so she did."
Oh, love that. Love that. Thank you for sharing. And I'll definitely, the books sound phenomenal. Let Them is one of the number one, I think, book right now. And Mel Robbins is always such a hero in everything
It's
she
a great
does.
podcast too,
Yeah,
Jaynie. Mill's
Well,
podcast.
then I can
does.
do a
Good one to
podcast.
listen to.
Then I can do a podcast. Yes.
Yes, she's awesome. All right, Katie, wrap it up.
Well, I am in a season of life where reading for myself is not a real priority right now. I think I've read Horton Hatches the Egg on repeat for the last month. So we do a lot of that reading. But the quote that kind of has been in the back of my mind and just comes to the forefront every single day is just progress over perfection. It's just in any pit of your life that you're working towards, it's just the fact that you got up, you showed up, you made progress. That's what matters. That's what's important.
Love that, love that, love that. Because a lot of times we sit there and ponder about how we're going to do things instead of getting them done. And you just have to you just got to get it done, and then you'll learn and tweak it. So thank you so much, all of you, for your insights, your leadership. I'm going to tell you, it makes such an impact on me every day. And I hear it from all the leaders that are involved with our organization, and for sharing your journey with us and with everyone that's watching this show. We really do appreciate it. It's inspiring how each of you has embraced your new roles with purpose and passion for sure. And to our audience, I hope today's conversation has sparked a new idea or given you a fresh perspective on what it means to lead at the highest level. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and keep the conversations going on our Women Who Lead social channels. We've got several YouTube, you can do it. And then we also have the podcast. This episode will become a podcast that will air in the next 3 weeks. So as I leave you, I'm going to leave you with this thought. When we embrace diversity, we discover the true strength of our collective potential. And the diversity in women and all that we do is how we embrace and strengthen our core. Join us on March 12th for another incredible conversation. As always, let's continue to champion diversity and inclusion in everything that we do. I'm Teresa Palacios Smith, and this has been Women Who Lead. Thank you all, and see you next time, and happy Valentine's Day, which is this weekend.